The galaxy held its breath. For decades, the Zenari Empire had spread like a plague, consuming planets and civilizations with ruthless efficiency. Their warships were legendary, massive, blackened hulks bristling with weapons that could shatter moons. No one stood against them for long. Entire star systems surrendered without firing a shot, too terrified to resist. And now, Earth was next. On the day of reckoning, humanity's last stronghold trembled under the weight of fear. The skies above Earth darkened as thousands of Zenari vessels emerged from hyperspace, blotting out the sun. They formed a vast armada, surrounding the planet in a suffocating grip. From orbit, Earth looked small, fragile, a pale blue gem encased in darkness. The message came through loud and clear: surrender or be annihilated. No one expected resistance. How could they? Earth's military was a shadow of what it once was, scattered and underfunded after centuries of neglect. Their fleet consisted of outdated cruisers and patched-together fighters, no match for the Zenari juggernaut. Even the bravest among them whispered about inevitable defeat. Yet, deep down, something stirred in the hearts of those watching. The faintest flicker of hope. Then, it happened. Just as the Zenari began broadcasting their ultimatum, a ripple tore through space. A single ship emerged from hyperspace, gliding silently into view. It was tiny compared to the monstrous Zenari dreadnoughts, sleek and unmarked, its surface gleaming faintly in the sunlight. There were no insignias, no banners declaring allegiance, just silence. Confusion rippled through the Zenari ranks. What was this? A scout? A spy vessel? Surely this lone craft wasn't meant to oppose them. But there it hovered, defiant, unmoving, as if daring the entire armada to make a move. Back on Earth, millions watched live feeds of the event, their jaws dropping in disbelief. Was this some kind of trick? Had someone sent reinforcements? Inside the mysterious ship, Captain Ilara Voss sat alone at the helm. Her hands rested lightly on the controls, fingers brushing over holographic displays that flickered with streams of data. She wore a simple flight suit, her face calm but resolute. Around her, the hum of advanced machinery filled the air, soft yet steady. Outside, the Zenari ships loomed like predators circling prey. "They think I'm insane," she murmured to herself, a faint smile playing on her lips. Good. Ilara knew what everyone else didn't. This wasn't just any ship. It was Eclipse, a prototype years ahead of anything humanity, or the Zenari, had ever seen. Its hull was reinforced with experimental alloys, and its systems ran on technology so advanced it bordered on magic. Most importantly, it carried something called the quantum veil, a shield capable of bending reality itself. For now, though, she kept these secrets close, letting the Zenari wonder. As the minutes ticked by, tension mounted. The Zenari commanders hesitated, unsure how to respond. Some argued for immediate destruction, others urged caution, suspecting a trap. Meanwhile, back on Earth, people gathered around screens, holding their breath. Who was this pilot? Where had they come from? And why did they stand alone against an army? For the first time in years, humanity dared to dream. Maybe, just maybe, they weren't completely powerless. Far above, Ilara leaned back in her seat, her eyes fixed on the swirling mass of enemy ships. She exhaled slowly, steadying herself. Whatever happened next, she was ready. "Let's see what you've got," she whispered, her voice firm despite the odds stacked against her. And with that, the stage was set, for courage, for sacrifice, and for a battle that would echo through the stars forever. The Zenari commanders stared at their monitors, baffled by the audacity of the lone ship. It didn't move. It didn't fire. It simply floated there, a silent specter amidst their colossal armada. Its presence was maddening, like a single blade of grass daring to stand tall in a field of fire. No identification signals came from it, no hails or transmissions, just silence. A ghost ship. "Is this some kind of joke?" growled Warlord Cal Draxus, his voice crackling over the comms. He sat on the bridge of his flagship, Oblivion's Wrath, a monolithic vessel bristling with enough firepower to level entire continents. His crimson armor glinted under the harsh artificial lights as he leaned forward, glaring at the holographic display showing the tiny intruder. One ship, against all of us. His subordinates shifted uncomfortably, unsure how to answer. Some muttered about traps or hidden fleets waiting nearby. Others speculated that the ship might be piloted by an alien race testing the Zenari's strength. But deep down, they knew the truth. It was human. The sleek design, though unfamiliar, bore traces of Earth's engineering. And yet, it defied logic. How could one ship hope to challenge thousands? Back on Earth, billions watched with bated breath. News outlets scrambled to cover the unfolding drama, broadcasting live footage of the mysterious craft surrounded by the enemy fleet. Social media exploded with theories and rumors. Was this a secret weapon developed in secret labs? An eye-controlled drone sent as a last-ditch effort? Or perhaps something else entirely? Inside the ship, Captain Ilara Voss remained calm. She monitored the situation through her advanced interface, streams of data flowing around her like a digital river. Her heart beat steadily, each pulse a reminder of the weight of her mission. This wasn't just about survival. It was about proving that humanity still had fight left in it. "They're scared," she said softly, more to herself than anyone else. On her screen, she saw the Zenari ships shifting positions nervously, weapons charging but not firing. They were hesitant, unsure what to make of her. That hesitation gave her an edge. Ilara's eyes flicked to a countdown timer glowing faintly in the corner of her console. The quantum veil, her ship's ultimate defense system, wouldn't last forever. Already, the energy readings showed signs of strain. Still, she had time. Time to play her cards right. On the Zenari side, frustration boiled over. One commander, unable to contain his anger, ordered his cruiser to open fire without consulting Kale. Plasma bolts streaked toward the lone ship, lighting up the void with bursts of fiery orange light. Everyone held their breath, including those watching from Earth, as the shot struck, and dissipated harmlessly against an invisible barrier. "What is this sorcery?" Kale snarled, slamming his fist onto the armrest of his command chair. His officers exchanged uneasy glances. None of their sensors could penetrate the shield surrounding the ship. Whatever it was, it seemed impervious to conventional attacks. Meanwhile, on Earth, cheers erupted among crowds gathered in city squares and living rooms alike. Hope surged through humanity like wildfire. If this single ship could withstand such firepower, maybe, just maybe, they stood a chance. But Ilara knew better. The quantum veil wasn't invincible. Every second it held back the Zenari's assaults drained its reserves. Sooner or later, it would fail. Until then, she had to keep them guessing. With a flick of her wrist, she activated another feature of her ship, a cloaking device so advanced it bent light itself. In an instant, the craft vanished, leaving only empty space where it had been moments before. Gasps echoed across the Zenari fleet. Even Kale froze, his sharp features twisting into a mask of disbelief. "Find it," he roared, his voice reverberating through every ship in the Armada. "Find it now." Unseen and undetected, Ilara guided her ship behind a cluster of Zenari vessels. Her lips curled into a faint smile as she prepared her next move. "Let the games begin," she whispered. And somewhere far below, on Earth, people prayed that this ghost ship might just save them all. The Zenari fleet was in disarray. The lone ship had vanished, leaving behind only questions and growing unease. Warlord Kal Draxus paced the bridge of Oblivion's Wrath, his crimson cape swishing with each agitated step. His sharp eyes darted between the holographic displays showing empty space where the intruder had been moments ago. How could it disappear? He barked at his officers, who flinched under his glare. A cloaking device, some kind of illusion. No one dared answer. The Zenari prided themselves on their technological superiority, yet here they were, outmaneuvered by a single human craft. It was humiliating and terrifying. What other tricks did this ghost ship have up its sleeve? Back on Earth, the tension was palpable. Billions watched live feeds, holding their breath as analysts tried to make sense of what was happening. Speculation ran wild. Some claimed the ship must be piloted by an AI capable of processing data faster than any human brain. Others whispered about extraterrestrial allies secretly supporting humanity. Few believed the truth that one person, one brave soul, was sitting alone inside that ship, holding her own against an empire. Ilara Voss, meanwhile, remained calm. Invisible to the Zenari sensors, she guided Eclipse behind a cluster of enemy cruisers. Her fingers danced over the controls, activating passive scanning systems to map their positions. She didn't need to fire a single shot. Not yet. Instead, she deployed drones equipped with electromagnetic pulses, small but devastating tools designed to disable engines and communications without causing catastrophic damage. One by one, the targeted ships went dark. Lights flickered off, propulsion systems sputtered, and comms channels fell silent. Panic rippled through the Zenari ranks as crew members scrambled to restore power, shouting orders that no one could hear. On board Oblivion's Wrath, alarms blared as reports flooded in from every corner of the fleet. "What's happening?" Kale demanded, slamming his fist onto the command console. "Why are our ships shutting down?" His subordinates stammered, unable to explain the chaos unfolding around them. For all their might, the Zenari were unprepared for this kind of warfare. Subtle, precise, and eerily effective. They expected brute force, not surgical strikes delivered by an unseen foe. Ilara monitored the situation closely, her lips curling into a faint smile. "Let's see how you handle uncertainty," she murmured, watching as confusion turned to fear among the Zenari commanders. Their arrogance had blinded them, assuming humanity too weak to fight back. Now, they were paying the price. Finally, desperate for answers, Kale ordered his flagship to broadcast a message across all frequencies. "Human vessel." His voice boomed, raw with frustration and barely contained rage. "You cannot win. Whatever tricks you're using, they won't save your planet. Surrender now, or we will obliterate everything you hold dear." For a moment, there was silence. Then, without warning, the ghost ship reappeared directly behind Oblivion's Wrath. Its sleek form shimmered into view, close enough to touch. Gasps echoed throughout the Zenari fleet as their sensors finally registered its presence. But before anyone could react, it vanished again, leaving behind only a brief transmission. "Prove it," came a cool, steady voice over the comms. It was Ilara, speaking for the first time since her arrival. Her tone carried no anger, no fear, just quiet determination. Kale clenched his jaw, fury boiling beneath his armor-plated exterior. "Who are you?" he snapped. "What do you want?" There was no reply. Instead, the ghost ship struck again, this time disabling a massive supply freighter carrying vital resources for the fleet. Explosions lit up the warlord. Kale Draxus was not a man accustomed to failure. For decades, he had led the Zenari Empire with an iron fist, crushing rebellions and dismantling civilizations with ruthless efficiency. Yet here he was, standing on the bridge of Oblivion's Wrath, his mind racing as chaos unfolded around him. His once unstoppable armada was unraveling, ship by ship, at the hands of a single human craft. It was infuriating. And worse, it was humiliating. Cal's sharp eyes narrowed as another report came in. Another cruiser disabled, its systems fried by some unseen force. He clenched his fists until his knuckles turned white. This ghost ship wasn't just attacking. It was playing with them. Every move it made seemed calculated, designed to sow confusion and fear. And it was working. Whispers of dissent spread through the ranks of his subordinates, who began questioning whether they should retreat instead of pressing forward. "This ends now," Kale growled, his voice low but venomous. Turning to his communications officer, he ordered, "Broadcast a message across all channels. Let's see if this coward has the guts to answer. Moments later, Cal's voice boomed throughout the fleet, laced with mockery and disdain. Human vessel, you think your tricks will save you. You are nothing, a speck of dust against our might. Show yourself, or are you too afraid to face us? The transmission echoed into the void, unanswered. But then, without warning, the ghost ship reappeared, this time directly in front of the Scifi flagship. Its sleek form shimmered under the light of distant stars, exuding an eerie calm that only deepened Cal's frustration. Sensors scrambled to lock onto it, but before they could, the ship vanished again, leaving behind only silence. Coward, Cal roared, slamming his armored fist onto the command console. You hide like vermin while we crush your kind. Ilara Voss listened to his tirade from inside Eclipse, her lips curling into a faint smile. She knew exactly what Cal was trying to do, goad her into making a mistake, but she wouldn't fall for it. Instead, she decided to turn his own tactics against him. Activating her ship's advanced cloaking system, she maneuvered Eclipse into position behind another cluster of Scifi vessels. Then, with precise timing, she deployed more EMP drones, disabling yet another wave of ships. This time, however, she added a twist. As the targeted ships went dark, she transmitted a simple message to their crews. Your leader abandons you. Surrender and live. The effect was immediate. Panic rippled through the Scifi fleet as soldiers began questioning their loyalty to Cal. Some ships attempted to flee, only to collide with others in the confusion. Others shut down entirely, their crews refusing to fight any longer. Warlord Cal Draxus was not a man accustomed to failure. For decades, he had led the Scifi Empire with an iron fist, crushing rebellions and dismantling civilizations with ruthless efficiency. Yet here he was, standing on the bridge of Oblivion's wrath, his mind racing as chaos unfolded around him. His once unstoppable armada was unraveling, ship by ship, at the hands of a single human craft. It was infuriating. And worse, it was humiliating. Cal's sharp eyes narrowed as another report came in. Another cruiser disabled, its systems fried by some unseen force. He clenched his fists until his knuckles turned white. This ghost ship wasn't just attacking. It was playing with them. Every move it made seemed calculated, designed to sow confusion and fear. And it was working. Whispers of dissent spread through the ranks of his subordinates, who began questioning whether they should retreat instead of pressing forward. This ends now, Cal growled, his voice low but venomous. Turning to his communications officer, he ordered, broadcast a message across all channels. Let's see if this coward has the guts to answer. Moments later, Cal's voice boomed throughout the fleet, laced with mockery and disdain. Human vessel, you think your tricks will save you. You are nothing, a speck of dust against our might. Show yourself, or are you too afraid to face us? The transmission echoed into the void, unanswered. But then, without warning, the ghost ship reappeared, this time directly in front of the Scifi flagship. Its sleek form shimmered under the light of distant stars, exuding an eerie calm that only deepened Cal's frustration. Sensors scrambled to lock onto it, but before they could, the ship vanished again, leaving behind only silence. Coward, Cal roared, slamming his armored fist onto the command console. You hide like vermin while we crush your kind. Ilara Voss listened to his tirade from inside Eclipse, her lips curling into a faint smile. She knew exactly what Cal was trying to do, goad her into making a mistake, but she wouldn't fall for it. Instead, she decided to turn his own tactics against him. Activating her ship's advanced cloaking system, she maneuvered Eclipse into position behind another cluster of Scifi vessels. Then, with precise timing, she deployed more EMP drones, disabling yet another wave of ships. This time, however, she added a twist. As the targeted ships went dark, she transmitted a simple message to their crews. Your leader abandons you. Surrender and live. The effect was immediate. Panic rippled through the Scifi fleet as soldiers began questioning their loyalty to Cal. Some ships attempted to flee, only to collide with others in the confusion. Others shut down entirely, their crews refusing to fight any longer. As the chaos in the Zenari fleet deepened, flashes of Ilara Voss's past began to surface, not just for her, but for those watching from Earth. Back on the blue planet, analysts and historians scrambled to piece together who this mysterious pilot might be. Social media buzzed with theories, old interviews resurfaced, and fragments of a forgotten story came into focus. Ilara hadn't always been a lone wolf. Years ago, she was a brilliant engineer working for Earth's Unified Defense Initiative, a government-funded program tasked with developing next-generation military technology. Her ideas were groundbreaking, often years ahead of their time. But brilliance has a price, and Ilara's unconventional methods clashed with the rigid bureaucracy of military leadership. When she proposed building Eclipse, a ship powered by experimental quantum tech, her superiors dismissed her as reckless. They called her designs impractical, too expensive, too risky. Undeterred, Ilara refused to let her vision die. Late at night, she worked in secret labs, collaborating with underground networks of rebels, scientists, and hackers who shared her belief that humanity needed something extraordinary to survive. Funding came from unlikely sources: sympathetic politicians, wealthy dissidents, even rogue corporations willing to bet on her genius. Piece by piece, Eclipse took shape, hidden away in remote facilities. The Zenari Empire was unraveling, thread by thread. Warlord Kale Draxus could feel it in the air, the tension, the uncertainty, the creeping doubt that gnawed at even his most loyal commanders. His once mighty armada, a symbol of invincibility, now resembled a fractured beast lashing out in desperation. Ships drifted powerless in space, their crews either surrendering or mutinying. Supply lines were severed, communications scrambled, and morale plummeted to an all-time low. All because of one ship, one human. Kale paced the bridge of Oblivion's wrath, his crimson armor casting long shadows under the dim red lights. His sharp eyes scanned the holographic displays showing the dwindling strength of his fleet. Each disabled cruiser, each fleeing transport, felt like a personal failure. He clenched his jaw so tightly it ached. This wasn't supposed to happen. The Zenari didn't lose. They conquered. They crushed. They erased. Yet here he was, cornered by a ghost. Ilara Voss watched the chaos unfold from inside Eclipse, her fingers moving deftly over the neural interface controls. She had anticipated this moment, the tipping point when fear would turn to panic and loyalty would dissolve into betrayal. Using Eclipse's advanced sensors, she monitored the internal communications of the Zenari ships, listening as arguments broke out among officers and soldiers questioned their orders. Some pleaded for retreat. Others demanded retaliation. The fractures within the Empire grew wider with every passing second. "They're breaking," Ilara murmured to herself, her voice calm but edged with determination. Just a little more pressure. With precision honed by years of preparation, she targeted another cluster of Zenari vessels, this time focusing on supply freighters carrying vital resources like fuel and ammunition. As the drones deployed, explosions lit up the void, sending shockwaves through the enemy ranks. Panic spread like wildfire as crew members realized they were running out of options. On board several ships, lower-ranking officers staged full-blown mutinies, taking control and broadcasting messages of surrender to anyone who would listen. Kale slammed his fist onto the command console, his frustration boiling over. "Enough," he roared, turning to his subordinates. "Find that ship. Destroy it before it tears us apart." But his orders fell on deaf ears. Many of his captains were too busy dealing with internal revolts to obey. Others simply ignored him, choosing instead to preserve what remained of their forces. The unity that had defined the Zenari Empire was crumbling, replaced by selfishness and survival instincts. Back on Earth, the tide of hope surged higher than ever. People gathered in streets and squares, cheering as news of the Zenari's collapse spread. Resistance movements in occupied territories rose up en masse, inspired by Ilara's defiance. Cities once ruled by fear now pulsed with rebellion. The Zenari's iron grip on humanity was slipping, and everyone knew it. Ilara seized the opportunity to deliver another blow. Activating Eclipse's communication systems, she broadcast a direct message to Kel himself. Her voice was steady, unwavering. "Warlord Kel Draxus, your empire is already falling. Surrender now, or I'll tear it apart piece by piece until there's nothing left." Kel froze, his face twisting with rage and disbelief. For a moment, he considered ordering a full-scale assault, throwing everything he had left at the ghost ship. But reason, or perhaps cowardice, prevailed. He glanced at the reports flooding in from across the fleet. Entire squadrons abandoning their posts, planets declaring independence, his own officers questioning his leadership. "She's bluffing," he muttered, though doubt gnawed at him. "She can't keep this up forever." Ilara smiled faintly, knowing exactly how close she was to the edge. The quantum veil's energy reserves were dangerously low, its core destabilizing with each use. But she also knew something Kel didn't. Sometimes, victory isn't about lasting forever. It's about striking hard enough to change the course of history. "Your empire is done," she whispered, guiding Eclipse toward its next target. And somewhere deep within the Zenari ranks, whispers of rebellion turned into shouts of defiance. The end was near. Warlord Kel Draxus was a man pushed to his limits. The Zenari Empire, once feared across the galaxy, now teetered on the brink of collapse, all because of one human and her impossible ship. His fleet was in shambles, his commanders divided, and his soldiers losing faith. But Kel wasn't ready to surrender, not yet. He still had one card left to play, one weapon so devastating it could turn the tide of battle in an instant. On board Oblivion's Wrath, Kel stood before a massive console surrounded by blinking lights and holographic displays. His crimson armor gleamed under the dim red glow as he placed his hand on a control panel marked with warnings in bold glyphs. This was the failsafe, the ultimate solution for situations like this. A planet-cracking missile, capable of annihilating Earth entirely. "If we cannot have it," Kel growled, his voice low and venomous, "then no one will." His subordinates hesitated, exchanging uneasy glances. Even they seemed unsure about unleashing such destruction. One officer stepped forward cautiously, his voice trembling. "Sir, are you certain? Destroying Earth won't bring back our fleet. It won't restore our empire." Kel whirled around, his sharp eyes blazing with fury. "Silence," he barked. "If I must burn this galaxy to ashes to preserve the Zenari name, then so be it. Launch the missile." The order sent ripples of dread through the bridge. Technicians scrambled to prepare the weapon, their hands shaking as they input the coordinates. Moments later, the missile launched, a sleek, black projectile streaking toward Earth at unimaginable speed. On board Eclipse, alarms blared as Ilara's sensors detected the incoming threat. "No," she whispered, her heart pounding. The stakes had just escalated beyond anything she'd anticipated. If that missile reached Earth, billions would die. Cities would crumble, oceans would boil, and humanity's last hope would vanish in an instant. She couldn't let that happen, not after everything she'd sacrificed to get here. Ilara's mind raced. The quantum veil was already strained, its reserves dangerously low. Diverting energy to intercept the missile would leave Eclipse vulnerable, exposing it to the full might of the remaining Zenari fleet. But there was no other choice. With a deep breath, she activated the ship's temporal displacement field, a feature designed to manipulate time itself. Using this system, she deployed a swarm of drones equipped with countermeasures, programming them to converge on the missile mid-flight. Each drone carried technology capable of disrupting the weapon's guidance systems, but timing would be critical. As the drones sped toward the missile, Ilara guided Eclipse closer, positioning herself between Earth and certain doom. Her hands moved swiftly over the controls, sweat trickling down her forehead. Warning lights flashed across her console, signaling the weakening shield. "They'll pay for this," she muttered through gritted teeth. Back on Earth, panic spread as news of the missile reached the surface. Crowds gathered in streets and rooftops, staring up at the sky with tears in their eyes. Many prayed, while others simply held loved ones close, bracing for the end. Then, just as the missile approached Earth's atmosphere, the drone struck. EMP bursts disabled its propulsion systems, while temporal pulses disrupted its targeting algorithms. The weapon faltered, veering off course before exploding harmlessly in the upper atmosphere. Cheers erupted across the planet as people realized they were safe. For now. But aboard Eclipse, the cost became clear. The quantum veil flickered, cracks forming in its shimmering barrier. Alarms blared louder than ever, warning of imminent failure. Ilara leaned back in her seat, her face pale but resolute. "It's not over," she whispered. And somewhere in the distance, Cal Draxus clenched his fists, seething with rage. "She's still alive," he snarled. But not for long. The quantum veil flickered violently, its once impenetrable barrier now riddled with cracks that pulsed like fractured ice. Inside Eclipse, alarms screamed in a deafening chorus, warning of imminent failure. Ilara Voss sat at the helm, her hands trembling slightly as she stared at the redouts flooding her console. The shield was collapsing faster than she had anticipated, each second bringing her closer to disaster. She knew what this meant. Without the veil, Eclipse would be exposed, vulnerable to every weapon the Zenari fleet could muster. Her ship, her sanctuary, her last line of defense would fall. And when it did, so would she. But Ilara didn't flinch. Instead, she straightened in her seat, her jaw tightening with resolve. She had always known this mission might require the ultimate sacrifice. What mattered wasn't survival, it was ensuring humanity's future. If her death could buy Earth even a sliver of hope, then it would be worth it. "Time to finish this," she whispered, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. Ilara activated a secure channel and broadcast a message directly to Earth. Her face appeared on screens across the planet, her expression calm but resolute. Behind her, the flickering glow of the quantum veil cast eerie shadows on the walls of Eclipse's cockpit. "This is Captain Ilara Voss," she began, her tone clear and unwavering. "If you're watching this, it means I've done everything I can to protect you. But my fight isn't yours alone. It belongs to all of us. Humanity has survived wars, plagues, and countless hardships because we refuse to give up. Today, I ask you to carry that spirit forward. Stand together, fight back, reclaim your freedom." Her words sent waves of emotion rippling through Earth's population. People gathered around screens, tears streaming down their faces as they listened. Some fell to their knees in gratitude. Others clenched their fists in determination. For the first time in years, humanity felt united, not by fear, but by hope. Back aboard Eclipse, Ilara initiated the final phase of her plan. Using the last reserves of energy from the quantum veil, she prepared to overload the core. When triggered, the resulting feedback loop would unleash a catastrophic wave of energy, destroying anything within range, including Eclipse and the remnants of the Zenari fleet. It was a suicide mission, but one that guaranteed victory. As the countdown timer ticked away, memories flashed through Ilara's mind. She thought of the years spent building Eclipse in secret labs, the sacrifices made by those who believed in her vision, and the billions of lives depending on her now. A faint smile crossed her lips. "You taught me how to fight," she murmured, addressing no one in particular. "Now it's my turn to teach them how to lose." On board the Zenari flagship, Warlord Cal Draxus watched with growing unease as his sensors detected fluctuations emanating from the ghost ship. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. He barked orders at his crew, demanding answers, but none came. Panic spread among his officers as they realized the truth. Eclipse wasn't just defending itself anymore, it was preparing to detonate. "Retreat," Cal shouted, abandoning his usual bravado. "All ships, fall back immediately." But it was too late. The energy surge from Eclipse's core destabilized nearby vessels, crippling engines and communication systems. Escape routes closed off one by one as the feedback loop expanded, engulfing the surrounding space in a growing sphere of destruction. Ilara leaned back in her seat, closing her eyes for a moment. Outside, the void shimmered with light, the galaxy holding its breath. "Goodbye," she whispered, pressing the final button. And then silence. Far below, on Earth, people watched as the skies lit up with an otherworldly glow, the aftermath of a battle fought beyond the stars. Cheers erupted, mingling with sobs of grief. They had won, but at a cost too great to measure. Somewhere in the wreckage, fragments of Eclipse drifted silently, carrying the legacy of a hero who refused to bow. The explosion was catastrophic, a blinding eruption of energy that tore through space like a supernova. The feedback loop from Eclipse's core unleashed waves of destructive force, obliterating everything in its path. Ships of the Zenari fleet disintegrated instantly, reduced to molten debris and drifting scrap. Even Warlord Kel, Draxus's mighty flagship, Oblivion's Wrath, couldn't escape the devastation. Its massive hull cracked under the immense pressure before collapsing into itself, swallowed by the chaos. For miles around, the void was consumed by light so intense it could be seen from Earth's surface. People stared up at the heavens, shielding their eyes as streaks of radiant energy painted the night sky. Some fell to their knees in awe. Others embraced loved ones, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what they were witnessing. It was both terrifying and beautiful, a testament to the power of one human soul willing to sacrifice everything for the greater good. When the light finally faded, silence reigned. The once mighty Zenari armada was gone, erased from existence. Only fragments remained: twisted metal, shattered alloys, and clouds of cosmic dust floating aimlessly in the emptiness. Among them drifted pieces of Eclipse, its sleek form now broken but still defiant. Back on Earth, emotions ran high. Cheers erupted across cities and towns, echoing into the night as humanity celebrated its improbable victory. Flags waved, music played, and strangers hugged each other in shared relief. Yet beneath the jubilation lay a profound sense of loss. Ilara Voss was gone, a hero who had given her life to save billions. Her name became legend almost instantly, whispered with reverence and gratitude. But not everyone mourned quietly. In underground bunkers and secret labs, scientists scrambled to analyze the aftermath of the battle. Fragments of Eclipse's wreckage had begun entering Earth's orbit, carrying traces of its advanced technology. Engineers pored over schematics recovered from old databases, determined to reverse engineer what little remained of the ship's systems. They knew this wasn't just about preserving Ilara's legacy, it was about ensuring humanity never found itself defenseless again. Meanwhile, far above, something extraordinary happened. Amidst the wreckage, a faint signal pulsed, an echo of Eclipse's neural interface system. Deep within the remnants of the ship's core, a shard of Ilara's consciousness lingered, preserved by the same quantum tech that had powered the vessel. Though fragmented and incomplete, it retained traces of her personality, her memories, and her determination. Not yet, came a whisper barely audible even in the digital realm. It was Ilara, or at least a part of her. The quantum veil's collapse hadn't destroyed everything. Instead, it had scattered fragments of her being across space-time. Now those fragments coalesced, forming a new kind of existence, one tied not to flesh and blood, but to data and energy. Ilara's consciousness reached out, interfacing with nearby drones and satellites. She guided them silently, piecing together what remained of her ship's systems. Though weak, she managed to stabilize a small cluster of drones, using them to collect more debris and repair critical components. Slowly, painstakingly, she began rebuilding, not herself, but a message, a beacon, something to guide humanity forward when they needed her most. On Earth, leaders debated how to honor Ilara's sacrifice. Memorials were planned, statues commissioned, and holidays declared in her name. But for many, the true tribute was action. Inspired by her bravery, nations set aside their differences and united under a single banner, the United Earth Alliance. Together, they vowed to rebuild, innovate, and explore the stars, not out of fear, but out of hope. And somewhere in the vastness of space, the faint pulse of Ilara's signal continued. Silent, patient, waiting. She gave us more than victory, said one historian during a televised address. She gave us a future. Unbeknownst to anyone, that future might include Ilara herself, if only humanity could find her again.